Does anyone remember the weird obsession with a certain suicide hotline about 6 years back? Well, unfortunately for me, it's something I'll never be able to forget. In fact, it's the reason why I'm here today. I didn't come forward at first because I desperately wanted to avoid the attention. Then the longer it went on, the more bringing it up seemed like opening an old wound just for the sake of being an attention whore. But it seems I paid an unknown price for my silence, and now the powerful evil that surrounded the place is coming to collect. I don't know what else to do but leave an official record in case this foreboding feeling that seems to be slowing my heart rate more by the day proves itself to be true. Phew, what a sentence. Maybe they'll say I was a woman of many words in my eulogy? Hopefully several decades from now. A temp agency I consulted with offered me the position, and it probably pulled me in the same way as everyone else. Even if no one in our lives had ended their own, almost every adult human being knows the pain of losing someone too soon. They present the position to you like you singularly have the power to stop things like that. They make you feel important. You get to help save lives while making money for your family. It seemed like a win-win for me. After all, I'd made some shitty choices in my past. Maybe this would be a way to help atone for them. My first month or so there was really nothing out of the ordinary. In fact, I think I ended up helping more grieving family members, victims of someone else's suicide, than I did people actually experiencing the feelings for themselves. I'd heard of coworkers receiving strange calls, but that was normal for something like this, right? There are millions of people in the world, and all it takes is just one of them to get bored enough to create some prankster chaos in what's supposed to be a mostly anonymous call center. It doesn't take a lot of brains or balls, just good old-fashioned stupidity, which the world has plenty of already. The trouble started on a typical Thursday evening. I was scheduled for the 6 to 4 overnight shift and had just settled in at my desk when the phone rang. Thank you for calling the Brighter Future Suicide Hotline. We're here today to help you make it through tomorrow. Can I have your name, please? I waited for an unreasonably long amount of time before speaking again. Hello? Caller, I'm here for you. What seems to be the trouble today? Still nothing. The phone call had been going on for about 45 seconds at that point with no success. I pulled the phone away from my ear, intending to hang it up when I remembered something from my training. One of the main rules, if not the most important one, was to never hang up first. It was in fact a fireable offense. Never be the one to initiate the disconnection of a call. Let the caller hang up when they're ready, even if you think there's no one there. Just then, a slight burst of static rang through the phone, both alarming and relieving me at the same time. Then, in the slightest voice, someone began to speak.
He's in here with me.
Oh God, I wasn't ready for that. I didn't think it was something I'd ever have to be ready for. Helping adults through mental trauma is difficult enough, but this was unmistakably, undeniably a child calling. Hello? Sweetheart, who is with you? Are you okay?
He's in here with me.
Who is? Are you in danger? Let's talk through this together. Listen to me. Stay on the line with me. I'm not going anywhere, okay? I want to help. I want you to say the word absolutely if you're in danger.
He's in here with me.
I know that, sweetie, but are you able to tell me who he is? Do you know this person? Are they a stranger? You keep saying he's in here with you. Where is here? After a moment or two, I tried again, fully knowing I was out of my depth. The last thing I wanted to do was have to spend the rest of my life wondering. And if they hung up now, the kid and I would both be completely rendered helpless. Hello? Are you still there? Audible assaults of creaks and groans lingered in the background, but the child still didn't speak. My free hand flew up in the air, snapping as many times as possible to get someone's attention. The second my eyes met someone else's, I mouthed for help with a trace. It wasn't supposed to be taught to the lower level employees, or else I'd done it myself. More bursts of static cracked through the line as my coworker and I rotated around the cubicle to give him access to the part that the phone receiver sat into when inactive. I knew there was a name for it. I just couldn't think of what it was. Fuck. Beads of sweat formed on my forehead as I wondered what to say next. In a situation where every word is of importance, I couldn't seem to think of a single one. It's okay if you can't say anything right now. Just please know I'm here with you, okay? I promised I wouldn't leave, and I won't. But you have to let me help you. More static, but in the shape of words this time. I trembled as the tiniest voice on the other end articulated something clearly.
Absolutely.
Then the line went dead. We were thankfully able to trace the location and called the appropriate authorities, but I couldn't help but notice the color drain from everyone's faces around me. The bravest of the group stepped forward. He asked me to describe the phone call again, imploring me to not ignore any details. When I finished telling it, I got a myriad of mixed reactions. Some people glared at me angrily, while others looked horrified. Then, a woman to my left suddenly bolted from the office area into the main hallway, and it sounded like she was crying. As alarming as it should have been, I couldn't help but thinking it was a miracle I wasn't crying myself. Before I had time to ask questions, the phone at my desk began to ring. My legs trudged toward the call I knew I didn't want to take. I was already exhausted, and the thought of lifting someone else emotionally when I felt like I was drowning wasn't a comforting one. My shoulders sagged as I picked up the headset, mindlessly repeating the words I was trained to use. But the voice on the other end wasn't a usual caller. It was the police. After a moment, I asked them to repeat what they had said, though deep down I knew it wouldn't change. The pen I had grabbed to jot down any pertinent information fell from my grasp. It rolled underneath the desk, lost to the space my feet sometimes occupied. The location the call was traced to turned out to be an abandoned house, previously decimated by fire. There were no occupants inside, and certainly no small children. I was told that the only thing worth noting was that they had found an old telephone attached to a wall, singed in shadow by the fire, with the receiver dangling off the hook. Deep scratch marks appeared in the corner of the door to the hallway, but they were unable to tell how recent they were. Half of the crew went home early that night. No one had even stopped to ask me if I wanted to do the same. I was the one that took the call after all, and many of these employees were months and years more seasoned than I was. One of the few that stayed behind approached me at my desk, their face etched in dark concern. His name was Jim, and he explained to me that the woman who ran crying was named Denise. She had lost her young son around a year ago and used to occupy the same desk that was currently assigned to me. I could only nod in response, saying that I understood her reaction based on what she'd been through. Jim stopped me short, saying he wasn't done explaining. He asked me to sit down, following by asking what my spiritual beliefs were. According to Jim, Denise went through a terribly brutal divorce almost 3 years ago. They had both worked very hard with the assistance of their lawyers and finally had seemed to make it towards a mostly amicable communication system. She even felt confident enough about the progress they had made that she agreed to overnight visits on a bi-weekly basis. The first year of this went well, with their son thriving from the attention and love received from both parents, albeit separately. However, after one conversation about how a holiday didn't fall within his scheduled days, her ex began to change. His behavior both toward Denise as well as others in his life turned darker. He became withdrawn, overly defensive, and verbally combative. Understanding his disappointment and partly taking blame for it herself, she agreed to let his son stay with him for the night of the holiday, adamantly explaining she would be there early the next morning to pick him up. She felt like the compromise was enough to not only appease the father of her child, but also instill good faith to hopefully carry through to future interactions. Sadly, it wasn't. That night, after putting the child to bed, her ex downed sleeping pills, planning to lay down next to the child to go to sleep for the night, but not before splashing accelerant around each room and lighting the one farthest from him on fire. Denise never saw her child again, and what's worse, the address given to the police was the same house where the fire and the deaths had occurred. I never went back to work for the Bread or Future Suicide Hotline, and I cut contact with the few acquaintances I'd made while there. But that's not the problem. The problem is that now, years later, I've started getting phone calls on my personal cell phone. Each one is the same. Bursts of static ring through the line, and in the background, there's a woman's voice.
He said